Hello, welcome back. This is your final video lesson for this week, which I'm sure that you are grateful for not having to listen to me drivel on. Before we start today's lesson, can you please make sure that you have everything that you need? Pause the video now if you need a second to get sorted. All right, if you're back, that means you are ready to write our title, date, and LO. And as you can see, today we are focusing on question 3 of language paper 1. Pause the video and get that written down for me. Okay, now let us complete the do now. Can you please answer these 5 questions in full sentences? Like I always say, if they're not in full sentences, they are not going to be a useful revision tool. Pause the video now and complete the do now task. Okay, if you're back, that means you are ready to make some purple pen corrections. So, question 2 is worth 8 marks, which means that you need to spend about 10 minutes on this question. It's always going to ask you to analyse language. That's always the focus of question 2, which means that you should always focus on analysing words, methods, and any sentence forms. And similarly to the literature papers, you're going to be writing 3 paragraphs, so it shouldn't be too hard to remember. Pause the video now if you need a second to make any corrections. All right, so let's go through the overview of question 3. This lesson is going to follow the exact same format as the question 2 lesson from earlier this week. All right, so question 3 is also AO2, but instead of language, we are focusing on the structure of the text. This question is worth 8 marks, and therefore you should spend about 10 minutes. In this sense, it's the same as question 2, 8 marks with 10 minutes. Okay, question 3 is going to look like this. You now need to think about the whole of the source. How has the writer structured the text to interest you as a reader? The key thing that is different about this is about the whole of the source. Okay, the other 2 questions so far I've asked you to write about specific lines. We're talking about the whole source at this point. Okay, so how do we approach the question? As always, I want you to get these top tips down. So can you pause the video and write this title into your books, please? Okay, let's go through these. So you always want to look out for structural features. Obviously, before approaching the question, you would have read the text at the beginning of the exam, and then you're going to reread it again for question 3. And whilst reading, you want to look out for these features. Some of these will be new to you. Don't worry about that at the moment. This is just going to be a good test for me to see what you understand. And then if there's anything that we're confused about, I can teach you that as we go through the unit. So some things that you want to look out for. Is there a new character? Is there a new setting or event? Or is there a change in atmosphere? Whose viewpoint are we seeing the text from? Does the viewpoint change? Are we hearing it from someone else's narrative? Are there any moments of juxtaposition or contrasts? Where are the moments of climax and anticlimax? Where is the pivotal moment, the key moment? Are there any examples of pathetic fallacy? And do we see any flashbacks and any flash forwards? Also, you want to use structural verbs throughout your question 3 response, okay, to talk about the change that you are seeing in the structure. So words like shifts, focuses, introduces, and moves are great examples, so make sure you get those down. And again, you want to focus on the question keywords, which means talking about the whole of the source, the structure, and how it interests you. Okay, pause the video now and get all of this down for me. All right, if you're back, that means that you have this whole slide copied out. And now we can move on to talking about the structure. So this is the structure for question 3. There's less steps than question 2, but this final part here is going to be where all the detail lies. So similar to literature, it's kind of that same rough structure. At the beginning, you want to talk about at what point of the extract are you analysing? At the beginning, in the middle, or at the end? And then you want to embed quotes to support this point, the same as always. More practice of embedding, so you should all be perfect. And then this is the key part, explaining why the structural changes and the structural features interest the reader. So what kind of mood or atmosphere does this create? And does that change? What does this moment help us understand about the character or the events? And how does it help us understand what's happened before or what follows? So making those links between different parts of the text. As always, you're going to want to repeat this step 3 times. 1 paragraph at the beginning, 1 paragraph as it progresses, and then 1 paragraph kind of late or at the end of the extract. Again, it will depend on the given fiction extract that you get. Sometimes there are more changes, sometimes there are less changes, sometimes the changes are quicker or they happen later. But always 3 paragraphs. Okay, so let's look at a question for White Fang. We're going to do the exact same process. I'm going to write one, you're going to highlight and colour code one, and then you're going to write one independently. Okay, you now need to think about the whole of the source. How has the writer structured the text to interest you as a reader? You could write about what the writer focuses your attention on at the beginning, how and why the writer changes this focus as the source develops, and any other structural features that interest you. So the same process, I would always highlight kind of the key things. Remember, this is about the whole of the source. You must talk about the structure as it goes through the source. Focusing on structure, not language. And talking about how it interests the reader. What impact does this have on the reader? And these questions will give you some ideas to talk about, but ultimately you will be following that checklist every single time you approach this question. Before we move on, can you please make sure that you have the White Fang document open from Show My Homework? Pause the video now if you need a second to get that. All right, so you should have the White Fang document open, and now we are going to use this checklist to write the first paragraph. So I'm going to show you how it's done. So my first step, writer's focus at different parts. Obviously, it's my first paragraph, so I'm going to start at the beginning. At the start of the extract, the writer focuses on, and I have the extract in front of me, and we see the kind of the viewpoint of White Fang at this point, what White Fang can hear, what White Fang can see, what White Fang is doing. Focuses on the viewpoint of White Fang. And viewpoint is a structural feature. Okay, now I need to embed a quotation. So I'm going to start with when. I'm going to choose a quote first. I'm going to talk about the quote that is, smelled the air and read the message it bore of a strange God presence. You don't need to worry about repeating quotes that you've used for other questions. That's completely fine. When describing the dog's, it's the first moment he notices there's an intruder. So the dog's initial awareness of the intruder. The writer notes that he, my quote, smelled the air and read the message it bore of a strange God's presence. Okay, so I've done these 2 steps. I'm just going to make those red. Now I need to do the kind of key part of answering the question, which is explain why it interests the reader. So I think this part is interesting because we gain an insight into kind of what the dog is thinking and how the dog is reacting as it happens. So I'm going to write this allows us to gain an insight into the dog's thoughts and his perspective of the situation. I'm going to try and use one of these questions as a prompt. Mood or atmosphere? It kind of creates a mysterious atmosphere, I think. As a result, a mysterious atmosphere is created as we wait to learn who the intruder is. We know that there's someone in the house, but we're, waiting for that moment, that tense moment, to find out who it is and what they want and how White Fang is going to react. So I've done that one specifically. Remember, these questions in italics are just guidance, as well as these sentence starters here. You can switch it up. Not too far, but if you want to change some of the words at the beginning of the extract, you can do so. And I want to talk about what happens as the text progresses from this point. So I'm going to say also, I think it allows us to understand the dog's reaction as the text progresses. So also this helps us understand White Fang's reaction to the intruder in the following paragraphs. And by using this phrase here, the following paragraphs, I'm talking about the kind of change in the development of the structure of the text. So I have completed that checklist. All right. So what I would like you to do now is to use this checklist in the same way as you did for question 2 and highlighting where this model does each of these steps in the checklist here. Okay, there is the model paragraph in a Word document. It's on Show My Homework as question 3 model. So pause the video and go and open that and then come back here so we can read through this paragraph together. All right, you should have the model paragraph open. So let's read my second paragraph. The writer then shifts to focusing on White Fang's attack, again using those structural verbs here. When introducing the attack, the writer describes how he gave no warning before he landed on the strange god's back. Here I've chosen 2 short bursts of quotes and kind of combined them together for maximum impact. This creates an impression that the attack was sudden and vicious. Consequently, it is clear that White Fang is a fierce protector of his master and will do what is necessary to stop any potential threats. This violence is almost juxtaposed with White Fang's earlier calm and collected nature as he listened out for the intruder. I pause the video now, go to the document, question 3 model, and highlight and match these up. Okay, if you're back on the video, you should now have this highlighted model. So just to unpick this kind of analysis explanation part here, I've talked about what this allows us to understand about White Fang, that he's a fierce protector, which addresses this question here. And I've also talked about the juxtaposition earlier. And again, juxtaposition is a structural feature, and it also addresses this question of helping us understand what's happened before at the beginning of the text, making those links. Okay, if you need to, make sure you make any corrections on your model. It should look exactly like this. Again, please make sure that you save this somewhere that you're going to remember, because it's a really useful document to come back to and refer back to. All right, so now I would like you to use this checklist to write the final paragraph for question 3 based on the white fang extract. You may wish to analyse after, obviously, the attack on the intruder. You can talk about the reaction of the family. You can talk about the way that White Fang seems motionless and almost weak at the end of the text. And you could also maybe talk about the use of dialogue to expose the intruder. This one here is the most challenging, but if you do want to have a go at it, that would be excellent, and I can give you some feedback on that. So pause the video now, come back after you have completed this paragraph. All right, guys, you should have done your paragraph. Now the final paragraph of question 3. Please make sure that you send me your highlighted, your color-coded model paragraph, and also send me a picture of your paragraph that you've written here. Again, that guidance will be on Show My Homework if you're a little bit confused or you need a reminder. I look forward to seeing all of your excellent work. I won't be doing another video until next week, so enjoy your revision of Frankenstein tomorrow, and I will speak to you soon. Excellent work so far, guys. Keep it up. Take care.